The Abramovich legacy versus the Todd Boehly experiment. Wright, Scholes, and Neville on experience, youth, and the impossible demand for instant results. When Roman Abramovich arrived at Stamford Bridge in June 2003, he brought with him more than just a deep pocket. He brought a seismic shift in expectation. Chelsea went from a club with brief flashes of promise into a perennial challenger, hungry for trophies and unafraid of doing whatever the market and football regulations allowed to achieve instant success. Abramovich's arrival rewired how modern clubs think about success, experience, ready-made stars, and managerial authority that matched the owner's ambition. 2 decades later, Chelsea sits in a different chapter of its story. The sale of the club in 2022 ended Abramovich's era and ushered in a new ownership group led by American financier Todd Boehly. The appointments, transfer strategies, and rhetoric that followed have divided opinion. Among the loudest critics and most thoughtful analysts are 3 of England's most recognizable football figures: Ian Wright, Paul Scholes, and Gary Neville. Each brings a different footballing background. Wright and Scholes as former strikers and midfield maestros, Neville as a defensive stalwart and later managerial and pundit voice, but all coalesced around a striking, if contentious, view. Boehly's Chelsea are trying to fuse 2 incompatible approaches simultaneously, signing and developing young talent while expecting the kind of immediate success that, historically, only experience and big-name signings delivered. This deep delve explores the contrasts between the Abramovich era and the Boehly era, dives into the pundits' arguments, analyzes the realities of squad building and youth development in elite football, and wrestles with the central question: can a club demand instant top-level results from a team built primarily around youth and potential? 2 different philosophies: Abramovich's immediate impact model versus Boehly's youth-first narrative. Abramovich's mandate: experience, stars, and a clear path to trophies. Roman Abramovich's Chelsea era, 2003 to 2022, was characterized by a relentless desire to win and by an unwavering belief in investing to do so quickly. The blueprint was straightforward and brutally effective. Buy proven, world-class talent. If the manager wanted a player who had already shown they could win at the highest level, money was used without hesitation. Back the manager, within reason, with the transfers necessary to deliver short-term success. While Chelsea famously changed managers frequently, each manager still had access to a squad where experience and elite players created a platform for immediate results. Abramovich's arrival rewired how modern clubs think about success: experience, ready-made stars, and managerial authority that matched the owner's ambition. Boehly's promised approach: youth, data, and long-term value. Todd Boehly's ownership, part of a consortium that included Clearlake Capital, arrived during tumultuous times for the club and the wider football ecosystem. The new custodians emphasized modern sporting infrastructure, analytics, a global scouting network, and a purported focus on young talent capable of long-term development and resale value. The narrative promised a sustainable path: recruit young players with high ceilings, both for on-field potential and as long-term investments. Build a modern football department that leverages data, scouting, and development structures. Create pathways for academy players and integrated loan strategies to maximize minutes, growth, and future value. In concept, Boehly's plan echoed the trend among several modern clubs: marry footballing success with financial sustainability and player development. In practice, however, the transition from blueprint to results has been bumpy. The reality of the Premier League, a cutthroat competition where margins are thin and the pressure to succeed is immediate, complicates any long-term rebuild, especially at a club used to winning now. What Wright, Scholes, and Neville said: 3 voices, 1 concern. Ian Wright, the emotional, pragmatic realist. Ian Wright is known for his passionate and plain-spoken commentary. He has on numerous occasions expressed impatience when clubs abandon experience entirely for promise. His essential point is human and practical. Young players need guidance, and supporters expect results. Wright's comments condense into a few key observations. Young players need time and the company of experienced world-class teammates to accelerate learning. Experience breeds composure in crunch moments. When an owner or manager borrows youth-first rhetoric but then demands instant victories, it creates an impossible tension. You cannot simultaneously run a rebuild and demand trophies. The most successful teams often blend both approaches. They buy some experienced leaders and sprinkle in young talent to grow alongside them. Wright's rhetoric is grounded in a lifetime of competing and scoring in pressure situations. For him, the blueprint is obvious. To win now, you still need to sign winners. Paul Scholes, the tactical purist and skeptic of faddish rebuilds. Scholes approaches the debate from a midfield maestro's cerebral perspective. Scholes' criticisms are often tactical and process-oriented. Football is a results-driven business. While youth development is vital, it cannot be an experiment at the expense of stability in the top four fight or title challenges. Tactical cohesion and understanding are not guaranteed by talent alone. Young players can have skill, but may not possess the positional maturity or consistency required week in, week out. Rebuilds need clear processes, incremental steps, and the correct balance of experience to anchor the squad. Scholes is wary of announcing sweeping strategies publicly. Once a club communicates a long-term development plan but keeps firing managers or amending the approach, the contradiction becomes the story. For Scholes, clear strategic consistency is as important as the talent procured. Gary Neville, the institutional and cultural critic. Gary Neville, a former clubman at Manchester United and a pundit who blends tactical insight with institutional critique, emphasizes culture and structure. A club's DNA is the product of boardroom decisions, managerial appointments, and how the club manages its academy and transfers. When the leadership signals one thing but operates another, culture suffers. Clubs that successfully develop youth, Ajax, Barcelona historically, have alignment. Board, manager, sporting director, and academy all work towards the same vision over years. A revolving door of managers undermines youth integration. Fans and pundits are right to question a club that professes long-term youth development, yet repeatedly signs ready-made players and demands immediate success. Neville's perspective is structural. You can't transplant a sustainable, youth-driven model into an elite club overnight without the institutional patience and continuity to make it work. The central tension: youth development versus instant success. Why the two goals clash? Wright, Scholes, and Neville circle the same conclusion from different directions. Aspiring to elite results while prioritizing youth is not inherently impossible, but it's extremely difficult and frequently contradictory. The reasons are practical and psychological. Time versus pressure. Young players generally require time to develop physically, tactically, and mentally. Meanwhile, owners, boards, and fans demand immediate returns. Inexperience in big moments. The difference between good and great seasons often boils down to winning tight games and performing under pressure. Experience matters in these scenarios. Management instability. Rebuilding with youth requires managerial patience. When clubs change managers frequently, each with different philosophies, the youth player's pathway becomes muddied. Expectation mismatch. Fans accustomed to trophies become impatient with a slow-burn project, particularly in clubs with a history of regular success. Historical cases: what worked and what didn't. Examples where youth-first policies paid off. Barcelona, La Masia era. A long-term commitment to academy graduates, Xavi, Iniesta, Messi to an extent, supported by an aligned managerial and sporting vision, produced a golden era. Crucially, Barca had structural continuity and a cultural identity that tolerated the time needed to integrate youth. Ajax, recent cycles. Ajax's model has often combined youth development with the sale and replacement model. They accept transient success, but do not necessarily chase immediate dominance in every season. When the core is right, they combine domestic success with deep European runs. Examples where the tension failed. Tottenham Hotspur at various points. Promises about long-term development were undermined by periods where instant success was expected, leading to inconsistent decision-making. Some big clubs who attempted project rebuilds while retaining expectations of immediate top finishes found themselves in limbo, neither fully rebuilt nor competitive at the highest level. Chelsea under Boehly, evidence and outcomes. Transfer patterns and the messaging problem. Since Boehly's takeover, Chelsea's activity in the transfer market has been frantic and expensive.
Many signings have been of young or unproven players labeled projects, but acquired for high fees, an unusual hybrid between development purchases and marquee transfers. The crux of pundit criticism centers on the dissonance. If you buy youth, you usually accept a ramp-up period or take a patient route. Paying large fees for young players while expecting instant impact elevates pressure on the players and the manager. The optics of signing lots of players, often changing managerial regimes soon after, create instability, making it harder for a single philosophy to take root. Managerial turnover and its costs. Abramovich's era featured high managerial turnover too, but the key difference was the frequent purchase of experienced players who could deliver immediate impact regardless of managerial change. Under Boehly, turnover combined with a youth-heavy recruitment created an environment where young players were repeatedly evaluated by different managers with different demands. Continuity was compromised, hampering tactical familiarity and consistent development.